how can industry exchange sensitive information in the value chain?
There are logistics companies that handle the shipping, the storage of these substances. Also, they need to be informed about what chemicals are handled. And there are other cases where other stakeholders need to be informed. For instance, if there is a fire at a storage warehouse, the firefighters need to be informed as well what's burning inside.
The security incidents are going up. GaiaX is a European organization, association that's really working on standards and policies that make sure that we can exchange information in a safe way, and that we like Roland also said, can make sure that we keep being the owners of information, and that we do not give that data into centralized storage or so of a vendor, and that it's gone, basically, this data. Yeah.
We're super excited to be doing our first deep dive session this week. We're going to talk about how can industry exchange sensitive information in the value chain. And for that, we've invited one of the senior experts of coac to speak about the subject and really extract the most data out of him as possible, we can say. If done right, of course, data sharing has the potential to really boost business and be a defining success factor, I should say, in the future of any industrial company. It can help to break up data silos. It can really optimize processes, increase efficiency and transparency, but we want to know how. And thank you, Roland, therefore, for taking the time together with Martin to discuss these questions. I think we need to establish a case, first of all, to find out what context of data sharing are we talking about. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of who your clients are or what a typical example we are talking about?
Yes, of course. Thank you. So at coac, we are, for instance, looking at the value chain for the chemical companies. And there we have producers and consumers of chemical substances, ranging from companies that have maybe one or two products to companies that have hundreds or thousands of products. So like a large variance of the stakeholders here. Mm-hmm. And also in between, there are logistics companies that handle the shipping, the storage of these substances. Also, they need to be informed about what chemicals are handled. And there are other cases where other stakeholders need to be informed. For instance, if there is a fire at a storage warehouse, the firefighters need to be informed as well what's burning inside. Those are typical shareholders that we need to inform and that need to exchange data.
So external data sharing we're talking about.
Yeah, that's mostly external data sharing, yes. Yeah.
And when we do so, or when you're opening up a case like that, what would you say are the biggest concerns for these companies?
The biggest concerns for those companies, among other concerns, for instance, the data sovereignty is concerning for them. Like that means like what data is accessible by whom and what happens with that data afterwards. So ideally, you would be able to share only the data that a specific shareholder needs to know. So a logistics company may need to know what it is storing and whether it may store it in the same warehouse as something else, or whether that will create unwanted consequences. Mm-hmm. While a consumer of some mixture might need a little bit more information of what's actually inside, like what are some of the ingredients, the most important ingredients with maybe a rough percentage. Mm-hmm. So these are different scenarios, what certain stakeholders might need to know. And ideally, you would only want to share that information. And that's currently pretty hard.
When we're speaking about concerns, though, what about security? I think it's like the number one topic that at least we have to address. Maybe Martin can answer the question.
Yeah, sure. Sharing this microphone. I think security, of course, is a topic in industry. especially for these global players that also have a lot of course, intellectual property that they want to protect, right? And I think in industry, in general, the security incidents are going up. This is what we see. And what we do is basically we adapt really policies and approaches that are on the one side of already proof from other industries. There are several examples for that. We all know our wallet app on our mobile, but that are also discussed in GaiaX. And GaiaX is a European organization, association that's really working on standards and policies that make sure that we can exchange information in a safe way, and that we, like Roland also said, can make sure that we keep being the owners of information, and that we do not give that data into centralized storage or so of a vendor, and that it's gone, basically, this data and information.
Mm-hmm. Can you walk us then through current solutions that are out there that are really in industry use at the moment? Because you were saying it was kind of difficult to have that differentiation between which information should be shared and to whom. Could you, giving a really concrete example, how these solutions are already in place?
Yeah, so typically, currently, these data exchanges that I raised as an example, they are regulated. So there are safety data sheets that contain certain information that is mandatory to exchange. Mm-hmm. And typically the exchange happens via paper, and if you're lucky, it also happens via email in a PDF document. So, and it always contains all the data that is on this safety data sheet. And that can be like 50, 60 pages of documents, of written documents, of which you're interested in maybe one paragraph or maybe even one pictogram on this amount of data is relevant for you. So it's a very inefficient way of exchange, and it's also very verbose and difficult to handle for various reasons. Mm-hmm. The next question would be, why is this exchange happening like that? Is exactly the topic of sovereignty. Like the paper processes, they are, for instance, in certain ways easier to manage. So if you have to give the transport papers to a shipping company, it has to stay with the container, with the truck that transports something. And that's a little bit difficult with a digital piece of information, because that's stored somewhere else. So that's why printouts are still very relevant. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Perhaps I can add a bit to that, right? Mm-hmm. Because regarding the printouts, I really want to make the point that in industry, we also talk about a highly regulated environment, right? Right. And the companies today are really forced to print out these documents and put it to the transport good, for example, right? And that, of course, makes things very difficult for digitalization, because in the end, you as a company double a bit your work, let's say, right? Because you need to print it anyways for regulatory needs, and you then create a digital solution for it. And here it's really, about the institutions to also enhance the regulation, right? To make it possible for companies, if they have a good digital solution, that then the paperwork is not needed, right? That would also protect our environment as well. And then reducing thousands of pages, basically.
How does the digital solution look like then at the moment?
Yeah, I think today we see already digital solutions. So the automotive industry has also a digital platform where information about chemicals and manufactured items are exchanged. But in the end, this piece of software is not really helping the companies, right? Because it's like you have the information in your IT system, and then you enter it manually in another IT system.
Right.
And the one who's receiving it can, of course, look it up, but it's again not machine readable. Yeah. So, or not easily machine readable. So it's really like that also the technologies used here are very old, and therefore the adoption is also not really through the whole industry, I would say, available. And that's where these new thoughts and approaches from GaiaX are coming from, right?
Mm-hmm. What would you say then are the emerging trends and developing in that field and in the sector? We can't change regulation from one day to the next, but what is maybe happening on the technical side to enable a smoother information exchange? Is that working with startups? Is that internal solutions? What is it?
Yeah, I think Martin already, when he spoke about the examples, raised one, which is the wallet apps. The technologies around wallets are trying to mimic something that is closer to a printout that you carry around with you, and you have it with you on your personal device. And it works without an internet connection or without any other providers or something like that. So that's an important property of pieces of paper that travel with the container, that you can use them even if you're somewhere where you don't have reception. That is supplemented or fostered by GaiaX and GaiaX initiatives or technologies specified by the World Wide Web Consortium, for instance, the distributed identifiers, decentralized identifiers they are called, and the verifiable credentials that come with them. Those are technologies that are specified and are currently being rolled out on a very basic technology layer and will form cornerstones of a data exchange world that is easier to handle than paper, but still has some of the desirable properties of paper pieces.
Okay. So it's still a balancing act at the moment.
Yeah, it's still emerging, but like from the technology perspective, I think it's mostly clear, but there is no full solution. There are still some questions open, like data formats that are important, or like very concrete solutions. But the base technology is there, and it's like already very advanced. There are a lot of implementations, and all the big tech companies are already rolling it out, and the consumers are not even aware of this change happening. So it's very transparent. I think Microsoft rolled out the decentralized identifiers with its rename of Active Directory to Entra. They renamed the product, and under the hood, they rolled out a complete new technology. This is a technology that is basically rolled out in every company of the world. So,
That's huge. Yeah. Martin wants to add some final words.
Yeah, what I wanted to add is that it's exactly what Roland said, right? From a technology perspective, it's ready. The question is, how does it find its way into the industry? I think it's also not a secret that we are working on that also for the chemical industry and pharmaceutical industry. But what is really interesting, what to observe, is that there will be more than 180 different digital passport specifications available. And of course, the need of information from industry to industry is different, right? I mean, with the battery passport, we have definitely something that is really upfront, I would say, all the others. And then we have the digital product passport that's going to be most probably the first that is defined by regulation then. And then we have all the different associations that are also thinking about it. Yeah? And interesting will be then to see how this can consolidate. Yeah, because in the end, the chemical company has different scope of information that it's interested in than, for example, the discrete industry, so manufacturers in automotive, for example, and that is of course also important if we want to be efficient. Then to think about how can all this then interconnect at some point, right? So how can this also be exchanged in an efficient way?
And then also the reasons why we're here, because we can really check on you guys every once in a while and see in which direction these developments are going, both on the regulatory side and then, as you were saying, on the technological side. Who are the fast movers? Who are the later comers? So we'll definitely keep on track with this, with further news on this topic. So be staying with us. Thank you guys so much for this conversation. Thought it was really insightful. And we'll definitely hear more of that in the near future.
Great.